And our good saying that we always say is invest in what you know. So for a network of real estate investors that have been doing it for a while, they own multiple properties or they're in multiple syndications personally, they understand how the real estate investment world operates. So the transition from a personal investment to an IRA investment is really going to be the same. It's just the source of money is different. But for a new investor that's not up to date, they don't understand what.
You found the Real Estate Law Podcast. Because real estate is more than just pretty pictures, and law goes well beyond the paperwork and courtroom arguments. If you're a real estate professional or looking to build real estate expertise, then welcome to the conversation and discover more at realestatelawpodcast.com.
Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Law Podcast. My name is Rory Gill, and today we're going to be jumping into a topic that I've only familiar with tangentially, and that is breaking into your imprisoned retirement funds and using them for real estate and other investments. So I'm really happy to have Tony Unkel here on the podcast to walk us through some of the options that you might have for that, self-directed IRAs, and other ways that you can unlock your retirement accounts for your own personal investments. So thanks, Tony. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you for having us. Very excited to talk about this topic that not many people utilize.
Yeah. Before I break into the technicalities and the details of this, tell me a little about yourself, who you are, your company, and what you do on a daily basis.
Sure. My name is Tony Unkel. I am the business development manager for the Northeast Territory for the Entrust Group. The Entrust Group is a self-directed IRA record keeper, custodian, and administrator. We're based out of Oakland, California. We have about 23,000 individual clients, a little over $4 billion under administration. We provide the retirement accounts and the vehicles that allow individuals to completely diversify their retirement savings. Your typical retirement plans are your company-sponsored 401ks or your brokerage IRAs. With our IRAs, we take it a step further and allow you to go into the alternative asset space. Something that we don't provide is any type of advice, whether that's legal, investment, or tax advice. So you really are in full control of your retirement investments. With the main asset, held in these accounts happens to be real estate in any form.
Okay. So when I opened up the podcast and introduced you, I talked about having your retirement funds kind of locked into these arrangements. And that's the way that I've come to think of it. Whether that's the right way to think of it or not, I don't know. But for a lot of the people who are listening who might be interested in, financial independence, retiring early, kind of taking control of their assets, having money locked away into an IRA or 401k can feel relatively daunting. There certainly are tax advantages, and everybody should take a look at those closely. I'm, a huge proponent of other things like HSAs, but keeping the money in there really limits what you can do with it, or so I thought. So tell me about a little bit, before I jump into the technicalities and how to do it and everything. If somebody were to engage a company like yours to have a self-directed investment portfolio, what are some of the other investment opportunities that opens up for them?
Absolutely. There's too many. So what we like to talk about a lot of times is not what you can invest in. We like to simplify it down to what you're not allowed to invest in. And if it doesn't fall into one of these categories, it's investable. So the IRS does not allow you to invest in any S corporation. They do not allow you to invest in collectibles, liquor, artwork, and coins. There is an expansion on that. So you can't hold a bottle of wine in your self-directed IRA, but you can invest in a vineyard. You can't hold a painting in your IRA, but you can invest in an art gallery. And the last thing you're not allowed to invest in is insurance policies, specifically life insurance. So with your IRA, if it doesn't fall into that category, you can do it. Some of the common investments are private placement investments, real estate in all forms, whether that's buying a property directly and holding a rental property or a fix and flip, or going into a syndication. You can invest in real estate notes, you can lend money, you can do tax liens. Really, if you name it, you can do it.
All right. So that's interesting. So you can't do S Corp. So you can't use your IRA to turn around and fund your small business, the business that gives you active income. And you can't break open your retirement to access collectibles and, fund things for yourself and kind of that sort of thing. I know we're kind of real estate centric podcast, so a lot of our investments seem to go there. Can you invest? Let me ask a couple questions about that. Can you invest in real estate abroad, or does it need to be in the United States?
You can invest in real estate anywhere in the world. Obviously, if there's common trade between the two countries, you can make that investment.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's taking a lot of the 1031 exchange rules and kind of putting them in my head, but this is a little bit broader than that. So you really can just break open the piggy bank and do it there. All right. So that's a great thing. Now, when we break into these other investment classes, who should be considering this and really who shouldn't be considering, making a portion of their retirement fund self-directed?
That comes along a little bit on the advice, so I have to be careful how I answer that question. But self-directed IRAs theoretically are for anybody. With the multiple different crowdfunding platforms out there, and for example, I'll just throw one out there like a Start Engine. You can have a minimum of a $50 investment, $500 investment, and if one of those companies takes off and it's a nice return, why not have that in a tax advantage retirement account? A lot of our limited partnerships, private equity deals, you have to be an accredited investor. So that's going to be geared to, I don't want to say the older generation, because there are a lot of younger accredited investors, but you need that net worth and you need that significant type of retirement account. So it's usually somebody that's a little more seasoned through life, through their employment. They've left a couple of jobs. They've amassed a nice retirement savings through 401ks over the year, which they were able to roll into an IRA to make these investments. So anybody can open one. Regulations, it's going to be the same as your traditional or your Roth IRAs at a brokerage account, the same rules, same regulations. So they are available to everybody. Your specific investment is going to fit your specific need.
Okay. And I guess without putting thresholds in there, kind of what I hear hinted at from the edges is that if you have a really small retirement account, maybe this isn't right for you when you factor in administration costs, the other things, and the lack of materiality. And somebody who may have a bigger nest egg might be a better fit for a self-directed portion of their.
Correct. You always want to run your investment amounts and your possible returns and balance that off with the fees you're going to be paying. So for fees, every custodian's different. Some have an asset-based fee, some have a account value-based fee. So when you're working out your fees and you see it's taking up a majority of your investment, it's probably not the best thing for you to do.
Okay. And similarly, I hear over and over that your company doesn't give advice to people.
Right.
And kind of what I extrapolate from that is something like this might be a better fit for somebody who either has a good network of support and advisors, or somebody who really is willing to to do the work and the research to understand what they're doing, because by making it self-directed, you're taking some of the guardrails away that a traditional IRA might have for you.
Correct. And our good saying that we always say is invest in what you know. So for a network of real estate investors that have been doing it for a while, they own multiple properties or they're in multiple syndications personally, they understand how the real estate investment world operates. So the transition from a personal investment to an IRA investment is really going to be the same. It's just the source of money is different. But for a new investor that's not up to date, they don't understand what they're doing, we always strongly suggest they consult with either their tax advisor, their financial advisor, or an attorney before entering into any alternative investment. So they also have risks. As a custodian, record keeper, administrator, we also don't do due diligence on the investments. So that falls down to the investor as well. So you want that network of professionals if you're not comfortable doing it yourself.
I've been saying for shorthand, we're talking about self-directed IRAs. Am I right to think of that? Are we talking kind of only about the IRA vehicle, or do the other investment plans work for self-directed portions too?
Well, all retirement accounts can do it as well. We offer obviously the IRAs, so your traditional and Roth IRA, your SEP simple IRAs, health savings account, and educational savings accounts as well. If you're an owner of a company and you sponsor a company-wide 401k plan and you want to put that 401k plan into the alternative space as well, we do have the capability to record keep that asset within your company-wide 401k also. And then on the 401k space, we also offer the individual 401k. Some may call it a solo 401k.
Okay.
So you're not stuck to your traditional Roth IRAs.
Okay, so it's a little bit more expensive than there, but I would say the vast majority of what you do is probably the IRAs. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
The fair assessment.
Backing up a little bit and talking about, IRAs more generally, as I laid it out, we're talking about money that's kind of locked into a certain kind of account until your retirement. What are the advantages? Why do people want to put these funds into a restricted controlled account instead of just making this an investment on the side?
For company 401ks, the benefits is the employer match. So if you're doing this on your side, you're not getting that employer match, which if you look at the grand scheme of things, could be free money, one way to look at it. And they're supposed to be grown over 30 years. So you're going to lose out on, that match over 30 years to really grow your retirement nest egg.
Okay. So there's the employer match, and then for a small business owner like myself, there are tax advantages to taking that money and, reducing the taxable liability now. As opposed to Roths, which I love for a lot of people, so long as you're eligible for it.
Right.
And so why would somebody want to use a Roth vehicle, and then why would they want to turn that into a self-directed Roth IRA?
Sure. Well, Roth IRAs are great because you don't pay taxes on your distributions. You're paying your taxes on the contribution to the IRA. So all of your gains over those years when you disperse that at retirement age will be tax-free. So there's a potential to grow significant wealth within a Roth IRA, Roth 401k, Roth HSA, anything like that.
Okay. And then, with these investments, they're controlled. So you talked about some of the things that you can't do with it. Mm-hmm. The other thing I found kind of noteworthy from your materials are that there are certain people that the account is prohibited from transacting with. Who are those people, and why is that a rule?
Sure. Those are called disqualified persons, and those disqualified persons will be yourself and your lineal descendants. So yourself, your parents, your grandparents, your children, your grandchildren, and all spouses associated with those individuals. You are not allowed to enter a transaction with any of those within your IRA. Why it's prohibited? Most of those could be the beneficiary of the IRA or directly benefit from that investment today. And these retirement accounts are for retirement age. And take a little step further, one of the prime examples of a disqualified person, especially in the rental market, is if you have children in college or you want that vacation home and your IRA purchases it, you are disqualified or prohibited from renting that to a family member. So if it's at a college university, you can't buy a off-campus housing and rent it out to your child while they're there. If it's a vacation home in a tropical location, you can't have that to your IRA rented out for, 50 weeks and then go spend 2 weeks yourself there. That's a direct benefit today.
So actually tell me about that. So if you use this to purchase a second home or kind of an Airbnb short-term rental operation, you are prohibited from staying there. Is that
correct?
Right?
You're not only prohibited from staying there, you're prohibited from providing any what they call sweat equity. So you can't paint walls, you can't change light bulbs, you can't cut the grass. You would have to hire a third-party, non-disqualified party to do that, and paid for with either your IRA funds or the income you generated from that asset. So it's best any IRA-owned property, keep an arm's length distance from that at all times.
So actually that's news to me. So even, as a short-term rental investor, I'm kind of used to going into a space and hiring out the big things, but going out there and, arranging things for myself the first time, certainly painting, and that kind of transaction is not a good fit for this. According
to the IRS code, that is correct. It's a violation.
All right. And so you're also, I guess that answers the other question I had pre-written for you is, I'm used to, for tax purposes, thinking about maintenance days when you go to a short-term rental. If you go up there for the purpose of maintaining the property, then it doesn't count as a personal fair use day. But you're saying here that all of that's prohibited.
Well, that's all. Any sweat equity or any direct involvement in that property is a prohibited transaction.
What does enforcement look like for things like that, and what would be the consequence if somebody made a mistake, used the property the wrong way, or engaged in an improper transaction?
Sure. Well, any prohibited transaction is going to have the penalty. It's a distribution of your retirement account, and the whole account becomes taxable. Usually when there is a prohibited transaction with a disqualified party, there could be a fine levied. Every case is different. We really have to sort exact IRS cases where this has happened. Are people violating it? I'm sure they are. Is the risk worth the reward? Absolutely not.
Okay. So, so I'm kind of picturing a different thing here. So this is certainly not, you have an opportunity to buy a family property and turn it into a rental property. That is improper. It's not a good fit for really active investors who want to get out there and put in sweat equity. So, a lot of the people that I work with, but I'm picturing kind of the interstate investments where you live in the Northeast and might buy a property in the South,
sure,
where from the very beginning, you're in the habit of hiring a property manager to manage.
Correct. That works perfectly fine. And, it's not saying you can never take possession of the property. You can own that. I'm in the Northeast as well. So South Florida is the go-to retirement destination. Mm-hmm. So theoretically speaking, if I were to purchase a home in South Florida in my IRA today, I would keep that as a rental property until my retirement age. And then at that time, I take the property as my distribution, where we retitle the property from the IRA to myself personally. If it's a traditional IRA, I'll pay tax on that distribution, which is the property value. And then at that time, I'm free and clear to move into that property.
So that's interesting. So that actually opens up my early question of, who should be doing this to kind of a broader range of people, people who are planning for their retirement in more than just one way. So if you have the opportunity to buy that condo in South Florida, we've kind of talked about now a little bit of the specifics. Can you, share, without disclosing client information, but some ways that you've seen this, seen clients use a self-directed IRA?
Sure. The example I just gave, I've had multiple of my clients buy that, either South Florida, Costa Rica, Mexico property. Those are like the three big vacation spots that we see. They've either Airbnb'd it, fixed it and flipped it, or, held it on for the rental. And then they took that distribution when they turned 59 and a half, or they started taking partial distributions over the years, so you don't have the big tax burden all at once. And then they were able to successfully retire in that resort location without having to go out and buy a property that day. So they were able to earn some income off of that over X amount of years and then retire with that income in the property.
With these, we talked about, who should be doing it in the context of who should be using their IRA to purchase a rental property in their, that's theirs to indirectly control. But this opens up using a self-directed IRA opens things up to a wider range of people. Kind of always wondered where some people get the money to make relatively big contributions to syndicated deals, to lend money out as small scale lenders. I've always been curious where people pull this money from.
Where is the money coming from?
Where's the money coming from?
So let's touch on a little contribution rules real quick. So if you're starting from scratch and your first IRA is going to be a self-directed IRA for alternative investments, you're under the age of 50, you can only contribute $6,000 to that account this year. Next year, it bumps up to $6,500. If you're over 50 years old, the IRS is nice enough to give you an additional $1,000, so you can contribute $7,000. You're not buying a whole lot with $7,000. So where do these six-figure self-directed IRAs come from? Well, they come from your 401ks. Which is why I mentioned earlier that most of our clients are towards the older generation, where you've built up that six-figure 401k from your old jobs, and then you can actually access that money. You roll it out of the old company plan into a self-directed IRA. No taxes, no penalties with that rollover. And now you have your six-figure self-directed IRA to go out and deploy as you wish.
Okay.
Or you have IRAs from when you were younger at your brokerage account that's been in the market, and they were significantly able to grow over years, where you've amassed a nice sized IRA, we'll just say like a Charles Schwab or something. From there, you can liquidate that account, transfer the cash over to the self-directed IRA, no tax, no penalty, and then deploy that into the alternative space.
Okay. So you're not going to, as a W-2 employee, open up an IRA, throw in $6,000 and wait 100 years for you to get enough money to really have.
It'll take you some time to amass that. Yes.
Okay. So the bulk of it's coming from, 401k rollovers.
401k rollovers or significant IRA transfers. Now, how those IRA transfers originated, at one point, somebody did at a certain age open an account and make the minimum contribution, and they invest it in compound interest over years, was able to have them grow. So if you're listening and you're 18, 19, 20 years old, no retirement account, there's nothing stopping you from opening an IRA, whether traditional or Roth, and make those contributions and start growing it. So when you get to a certain age, you'll have that nice lump sum to be able to deploy into other assets.
Okay. And then, for business owners, there are some other ways to get some money into the account at a faster pace than $6,000 a year. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. Depending on what type of retirement account you have, each one has different contribution limits.
Okay. And then, kind of the other thing that struck me about using the self-directed IRAs is there appears to be an administrative burden every time you want to use money, or in the case of an investment property, just pay the bills for the property.
Right.
In some ways, it's like going to your parents and asking for allowance money to pay the electric bill. That's kind of like the worst combination of being a child and being an adult. But is that right? Is it administratively a little bit difficult to
sometimes
use the money?
Depends on your custodian and what your custodian offers. That's why it's always best to do your due diligence and really understand the company that you're going to choose to work with and what options they have available to you. So there are two ways for an IRA to purchase a property. One is the direct purchase, and the other is what's called a checkbook IRA. I'll touch on the direct purchase to start, and then we'll cover the checkbook. A direct purchase means you go out and you find whatever your property you're investing in, you come to a verbal agreement on the purchase price. You would send your custodian the purchase contract. We sign as the buyer on behalf of you, and then we release the funds for your earnest money deposit at closing and anything else that needs to be paid for that property. If it's a rental and your IRA is collecting rent, your tenants will pay your IRA, meaning they're mailing a check to us every month, and we're going to deposit that. You got to pay your property taxes, HOAs, utilities, any repairs. Yes, you have to upload an invoice to our portal, and then we will cut a check out to that appropriate party. Could be burdensome, could take a little bit of time. You don't have direct access to your funds. We solve that issue by what we have is called a My Direction debit card. It's a debit card that we provide to you that's pre-filled with your retirement funds. So if there's an expense that you need to pay for immediately, you can just use that debit card. And then you would go to our portal, upload the invoice, and certify the transaction. So we kind of give you the ability to pay for things without having us involved. Certain things that don't take debit cards and it's checks only or wires only, then yes, you need to get the custodian involved. Good part about that is you're out of the process. We're doing the record keeping and the administration of that property, so there's not much for you to fall back on. And I think it gives you a lot more access is what's called the checkbook IRA. Checkbook IRA, also known as an IRA LLC, is you'll go out and you'll form a single member manager managed LLC. Your IRA is that sole member. You personally are the manager. You then go to your local bank and you open a bank account in the name of the LLC. You will make a private placement investment from your IRA into that LLC, meaning you provide us the operating agreement, we'll sign off on it. We will wire the funds to your LLC bank account. Now your LLC is funded. You as the manager of that LLC have full capabilities to go out and write your own checks. You are completely in charge of all investments. LLC pays all the expenses. LLC collects all the income. There will be no interaction between you and your custodian when using the IRA LLC.
That sounds wonderful, but it sounds a little risky for certain people because then it sounds like the onus to comply with all the rules then falls on the individual, and if they don't keep their books the right way, if they use the funds inappropriately, they're jeopardizing the tax advantage status of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Which is our big statement is invest in what you know, invest in what you're comfortable with. So if you're going to go out there and you're not sure what to do or how to handle these things, then it's definitely not for you. And again, there's not going to be any oversight from us within that LLC. We're here to educate and answer any questions we have, but there'll be no advice or telling you how you should or shouldn't do something. So the risk is all on you and you're in full control. Okay.
So it sounds like it's a good opportunity for some, but and maybe a lot of the people that we speak with who are deeply involved in real estate might know the space well enough to do it correctly. But beware of the rule that you can't go out there and put in your own sweat equity. You can't be as active as you might be with some of your other investments.
And you definitely can't use your funds personally within that LLC. That's a high risk as well. All of a sudden now you have a bank account with X amount of dollars at your disposal. You have to follow IRS rules around IRA investing.
As somebody who kind of came into the short-term rental space relatively informally first and then a lot more structured later on, I kind of look back and see how a lot of the funds early on were sloshing through the personal checking account back and forth in a way that's completely legal, totally fine, but it opens you up to kind of a set of bad habits where you maybe can't even capture or fully understand how an investment's performing. So if this is something that you see in your future, I'd imagine you want to maybe start having good accounting and discipline with the investments you have in your own name.
And it's having that trusted team around you as well. If you can rely on accountants and advisors, you're going to benefit a lot more.
Okay.
If you're not capable of doing it yourself.
Just kind of breaking the real estate mold just a little bit. If you wanted to take some of this money, invest it in a friend's company or something like that, that's also perfectly. Could you then take an active role in that company if your friend runs an ice cream shop and you also want to help them as a manager of the ice cream shop. Are you allowed to do that, or is that a prohibited transaction?
Technically, yes, possibly no. So the
Okay.
IRS also defines a disqualified person as any business owner who has 50% or more controlling interest in a company, has 50% or more voting power on a board, or is considered a highly compensated employee. So it all depends on the structure within that firm. But again, number one statement, always seek legal or tax advice before entering into any type of transaction, especially a transaction which you could potentially benefit from directly.
All right. Oh, I love that answer. The it depends, and you should definitely seek skilled counsel. That's how we could cap off any podcast. Before I kind of shift over to wrapping things up and ask the final questions, how did you come to discover this space and this as a career path?
Sure. I started in the 401k world. I worked for a 401k insurance company for many years. I did a lot of traveling, a lot of conferences, a lot of networking. I never thought that coming out of college, I'd wind up in retirement plans. Mm-hmm. Off the bat, could be boring. There's not a lot of excitement around it, but it blew me away when I was traveling and I was going out and seeing the thousands and thousands of people that work in this industry with all one common goal is to making sure American retirement dollars are safe, secure, so we have that money to survive when we're no longer working. 90, maybe I don't want to throw percentages out there, but a majority of people, that's going to be their only source of income when they start working. So to have organizations and individuals around that their main goal is to make sure that we have that money to survive, that was something that I really, really fell in love with and wanted to pursue. I made the switch over to Entrust about 5 years ago. I was looking just to do a little more expansive role, working with different types of retirement accounts, different types of investors. This is a completely different world than the vanilla 401k world. Every conversation I have, every client that I have, everybody is different background, different walk of life, different financial status, different investment type. And you really, really learn a lot about the investing world, and you are still able to help people knowing that they're growing their future, not only for themselves, but their future generations. Because a lot of these retirement accounts do get inherited. Mm-hmm. So the conversations you have is about my child is X years old. What happens to them when I pass? And, they're difficult conversations to have with a client we're talking about when they're no longer going to be here. But you can see all the different families that are really setting up generations of success, and it's rewarding.
So, I imagine your client, do you end up having to collaborate then with, estate attorneys, other financial advisors, business advisors, and kind of working as a pretty comprehensive team to make this a strong reality?
Correct. So depending on the individual we're talking to, some may have a team around them. Some may have family offices that run their finances. Mostly all have some sort of advisor that we do talk to. But we talk to a lot of individuals by themselves without those teams. And as long as we're giving the proper education, answering their questions properly, they've been pretty successful. In terms of who we work with or who we engage with, it's anybody from any financial part of the financial world. So whether it's investment sponsors, real estate agents, brokers, financial advisors, new startup company business owners, we really do speak with almost every aspect of the working force.
Okay, great. All right. So before we let everybody know how they can reach out and contact you, I do want to ask you the final questions that we ask of all of our guests, starting with, a bit of your expertise. So if you had to, give a presentation for 30 minutes on any topic, but with zero preparation, what would that topic be?
It's a good question. So outside of retirement plans, my passion is sports. I'm a diehard Yankee fan, diehard Jet fan. So with no preparation and nothing, I could probably go 30 minutes on how the Yankees can get back to their winning ways from 20 years ago and everything that's gone wrong in the past 20 years. Mm-hmm. That's just something that I'm really, really passionate about. I spend a lot of time and energy in that organization and with that sport in general. So I think I would do a stellar presentation on anything revolving properly managing and running the New York Yankees.
All right. Well, I hope you're not successful with that, but what's something that happened, earlier on in your life that affects the way you do business or live today?
Sure. I started in the hospitality industry, working in restaurants, both front of house, back of house when I was younger. And I really think that experience from working in your small mom and pop shops to working in high-end steakhouses, where I finished before I made the jump to the retirement world, I want to say I learned a lot in that space. How to deal with people, how to read with people, how to communicate, how to be responsible, how to multitask. I really think that set the groundwork for me to be successful in what I do now. I also think it's an industry that everybody at some point in their life should cross over, because it really gives you the skills you need to succeed, not only in a sales role, but I think in the real world.
And I think, as a broader thing, a lot of people kind of find us because they are aspiring real estate investors or want to work independently as a real estate agent. That work that you've done from your first part-time job through your W-2 work, I mean, all of that is incredibly valuable. You've learned real skills, and don't underappreciate that.
Sure.
And then finally, what's something that you're watching, reading, or listening to these days?
A lot of true crime podcasts. Nothing really specific off the top of the head that I dive into. I listen to a lot of Rogan, and now that Yankee season ended miserably, I could probably get back into TV. I'm a bad habit of rewatching shows. Obviously, one of my favorite shows is The Sopranos, so I think I'm just started that again, probably for the 15th time. Other than that, my Jets are 5-2, so I spend a lot of time in front of football. Not much book reading, not a lot of time. I have a 2-year-old, so he keeps us up and running around and busy a lot of the time. So around 8, 9 o'clock, I'm absolutely shot for the day. But, a lot of sports, a lot of true crime podcasts.
And a lot of our 3-year-old, keeps me from being able to get into anything too much. In fact, and shows that I watch have been done for seasons and seasons. So
I'm waiting for Succession to come back. So we got some time next year. Big into that show. But I found that I'm watching a lot more TV on my phone, where the little one has the monster television to watch TV. We retired Cocomelon, and we're on to Curious George now. So something's constantly going on in the house.
Yeah, we moved past Cocomelon a little bit ago, but it's a lot of like Mickey Mouse.
Yes,
right now.
So he was on Mickey around 1, but he's very smart. He can scroll YouTube himself. So if he gets access to the TV with the computer, he knows how to find what he wants to find. So luckily, it's the Cocomelon theme song. It was embedded in my head for way too long, and I'm just so happy we're past that.
All right. Well, congratulations on getting past that. So if people listening or watching want to connect with you and discuss whether this is a good fit for them, how can they reach out to you?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn. You can search under either the Entrust Group or my name, Tony Unkel. You can visit our website, theentrustgroup.com. Feel free to call or email. All contact information is on the website. Again, I'm located on the East Coast. I'm in New Jersey. Available Monday to Friday. Just give me a call, shoot me an email. I'm happy to connect.
All right. Thanks. So that was Tony Unkel with the Entrust Group, ENTRUST, theentrustgroup.com. I was trying to clarify it, but I'm making it worse for everybody. My name is Rory Gill. You can find me through my real estate brokerage, Next Home Titletown, nexthometitletown.com, or my law practice, Urban Village Legal, urbanvillagelegal.com. Thanks, Tony. Thanks for everybody listening. Do the whole subscribe, and everything. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks, Rory. It's a pleasure. Take care.
Thanks, Tony.
This has been the Real Estate Law Podcast. Because real estate is more than just pretty pictures, and law goes well beyond the paperwork and courtroom arguments. We're powered by Next Home Titletown, Greater Boston's progressive real estate brokerage. More at nexthometitletown.com. And Urban Village Legal, Massachusetts Real Estate Counsel, serving savvy property owners, lenders, and investors. More at urbanvillagelegal.com. Today's conversation was not legal advice, but we hope you found it entertaining and informative. Discover more at realestatelawpodcast.com. Thank you for listening.